What's up, St. Louis? It's your host, Luke Farrell of the STL Bucket List Show. The STL Bucket List Show is driven by Bommarito Automotive Group. Bommarito is Missouri's #1 car dealership with over 20 locations, so I guarantee that there's one in your neighborhood. Since the 1970s, Bommarito has sold over 1 million cars, and John and the entire team made us feel completely comfortable when we picked up our new vehicle recently for the family. So I can't thank the Bommarito team enough for driving this episode forward, and enjoy the show. For 50 years, Bankhead and Firth Orthodontics has been proudly serving the vibrant St. Louis community. As a family-owned and operated practice since day one, the commitment to excellence and personalized care runs deep. They believe in giving back to the wonderful people of St. Louis who have entrusted them with their smiles. Step into the 5 locations across St. Louis with modern offices equipped with the latest orthodontic technology. Their 3 amazing doctors are dedicated to providing top-notch, innovative treatments tailored just for you. Join us in celebrating 50 years with Bankhead and Firth Orthodontics, where your family becomes a part of theirs. Schedule your free consultation today and let them help you achieve the confident, gorgeous smile that you deserve. Because in St. Louis, your smile is your legacy.
If you want to hear about St. Louis, tune in to the Bucket List Show weekly. Hear what Marissa and Luke say. It drops every Wednesday. Got a dope new guest every single week. Buckle up for the ride. Who's it gonna be? Who's on the show today? They rep St. Louis. What to do in the loo on a late night, or maybe what to do on a date night. Yeah, Bucket List has you covered. They know what's going on. What's going on? They'll give you, hey, 18 different things to do, or 19 if you need one more to choose. Yeah, this city is a place we call home. A place we call home, yeah.
What's up, St. Louis? It's your host, Luke Farrell of the STL Bucket List Show. We're back. We've been putting these episodes out each and every week, highlighting the people, places, and events that make St. Louis special. We couldn't do these episodes without our incredible partners, Bommarito Automotive Group. Got our family hooked up with a nice vehicle. First Community Credit Union. We have a huge debit card here in the studio. So Four Hands Brewing Company, Birch Tree Recovery. Without all these sponsors, we wouldn't be able to keep putting this show out and showing up each and every week. But we have a super special episode today with our friends over at Berrybox Superfood. I met you guys actually through social media. I saw one of you guys made a reel one day. I think it might have been you.
Probably me, yeah.
And
it's pretty bad. He's like, hey, they need help.
Yeah, I was like, I saw it. And then I was like, hey, this is awesome. Let me come talk to you.
Right?
And then I was like,
and he was like, thank you.
So we met like right before, I think, obviously you guys were working on stuff, but right before you were working on the Foundry and announcing that. But I have Dustin and Whitney from Berrybox, so
awesome.
Thank you guys for coming in.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
It's taken a while to get this lined up. I think we've been talking for like 6 months.
Well, yeah, you guys have 2 kids. We just had a kid, so it's like, hey, if it doesn't work at this time, then it's not going to work.
Right? We finally found it. So.
But no, it's cool to watch you guys grow. But I want to. These husband and wife duos are really interesting because there's so many ups and downs that come with working with your spouse. But before business, before all that, tell us about your guys' love story. So Whitney, if you want to tell it, might be different.
Yeah, for sure. So I don't know, I always say we've known each other forever, but I think I met him when I was 13 or 14, right after like 8th grade. I grew up in a big city 10 minutes away from him, and so he was kind of in the country city, but we were at a local county fair, and my cousin went to school with him. Our families have kind of known each other, so we kind of met then and dated a couple years in high school, broke up a little bit, and then got back together later on in college.
Wow.
Yeah, we grew up in kind of central Illinois, so it's like that space where you drive by and
Sullivan, Illinois.
Oh, so,
right? And we're a big city.
I didn't know you guys were from a small town like that.
I had 20 people in my graduating class, so it was small.
I had 90, so that's how big we were.
Okay, you were in the big town. That's why I was like, what big town? Right? Like Chicago or something.
No, big town for our little area compared to him, big town.
Yeah, so there was like 2 guys to pick from, and you picked him.
Right?
They had a Subway,
Right. We had the date spots, Monocles and Subway and Casey's Pizza.
Casey's Pizza.
Yeah,
that's a good spot.
Big stuff.
That's crazy. So small town. You guys met. You guys dated a little bit in high school. Obviously split up. What drew you guys back together? Was it like, how did you guys rekindle? Because it's hard once you kind of go your separate ways. It's hard to kind of find your way back.
I think we just had to live. Like we just, you're young, and obviously being in small towns, you go to college and the world is your oyster, and you're like, I got to go live. I got to go do this stuff. So I think we just lived, probably made decisions we didn't need to make and stuff, and then kind of found our way back. So
it's amazing.
Yep.
Is that how you found it too?
Yeah. It's one of those things like whenever we broke up, it's like, like you love that person, you know what I mean? Like you never forget about them. And we got lucky and it all ended up coming back together, which was pretty awesome. But yeah, I grew up on a farm and always thought I would end up back there. And that's kind of, both of us went to college. You went to Eastern, I went to the University of Illinois. Got a degree in crop science and a minor in ag business. And I think we always thought we would just stay there. That's just kind of what normal people do, right? You'd stay in Central Illinois and work on a farm or at one of the Effingham Equity or something, one of those suppliers to farms. And we went through school. I had an opportunity to do a co-op or an internship with a large kind of biotech company here in town. And actually was in Maui on Hawaii. So I did that internship. They offered me a job after that, a full-time position. And I kind of like took that back to my dad and I'm like, hey, like, am I going to stay here on the farm or should I could go actually get a job? And I was kind of raised, my entire childhood was all about like, you're just going to stay here and like run this farm. And that was kind of a big change in my life. That's what I thought I was going to do my entire life. And he's like, there's 2 of us here already. Like we don't have enough land to basically for 3 of us to live comfortably. So you probably need to go take that job. So that was like a big change for us. Like it was like my senior year of college. It just kind of completely changed the trajectory of my life. But I think you'll hear from our story, like kind of God intervening a few times. Cause that's really important to us. And that was a big one in our life was just, I wasn't supposed to do that. You know what I mean? We were supposed to do something different. Yeah. And, so started working for that company, started working in Illinois for like 6 months and Whitney kind of finished up college. She was a semester behind me. And then I got a phone call to basically, hey, do you want to come back out to Hawaii and manage some of our operations on Oahu? So I went back out there. I was managing a farm on the North Shore of Oahu, which was pretty awesome.
Way better than
Yeah, no, for sure. It's like we graduated college. We just got married. Like it was great.
Yeah.
I lived there for 6 months, and then they offered me a job on Molokai. So I don't know if you know much about Hawaii, but like Molokai, I think there's 7,000 people that live there. It's very rural. We had a subway, I think since closed, but
the history of it was known as the leper colony. So basically back in the day, they would take people with leprosy, kick them off the boats, and
there were some isolated like peninsulas off the island, and you would get kind of ostracized there, like to live out the rest of your days with just kind of alone.
Could be worse places to live out the rest of your days.
Yeah, it was beautiful, but man,
that's terrible.
Well, and it's true Hawaii too. Like Molokai, like going from Oahu to Molokai, like Molokai is true Hawaii. Like there's no like
it's not like the American city. Even though it is in America, it's not an American city.
So I mean, it was really cool, and we ended up having our daughter out there and stuff too.
Really?
So that
was tell that story. That was a trip.
Wait, this was we don't have to talk about how old you guys were, but this was in the mid 2000s.
Yeah, it's like 2010
to 2013 we were out there. Yeah.
So we got married in 2009, so moved there like 2010 and stuff. But
and you just jumped at it. You're like, I'll go out there with you.
Yeah, absolutely. When we did the Molokai thing, that was a little more of a hesitation because for those planes you have to get on, they have to weigh you, they have to measure out the plane.
Sit in the front row on the right because they want that Cessna
you have to wear all your stuff on and everything.
Because you get there and then you have to ride some sketchy plane to get there.
Yeah, so you have to like puddle jump over to the other one and stuff. And it was just kind of like a culture shock going from Oahu to Molokai. But then it was like, I always joke, I cried when I moved there, but then I cried when I left there because it was like the people are like, everyone just welcomed us like family. She had so many aunties and uncles out there. Like it was just a beautiful like place for us to be like where we were supposed to be.
Yeah, it's awesome. You go to the beach, there wouldn't be anybody there. You could just drive your trucks right out on the beach and stuff. So it was fun. But and then so we had Isla there. She's 13 now, but at the time, she started having like Braxton Hicks contractions like a month early, and they have like a little tiny clinic there on the island. Like if you don't want to have a heart attack or anything there, right?
Only,
so they had a midwife. So, but Isla was like frank breached. So we ended up having to get a life flight from Maui, flew us over picked us up on Molokai, flew us to Oahu, and then when we got to Oahu, the contraction stopped, and they're like, well, you're still 3 weeks early, so you just got to stay here on island until you have this baby. No family, no nothing.
Thankfully, they let us stay at the Ronald McDonald House. So like she was about like 5 weeks early at that point, and then we got her to like 4 weeks early, and then she was born over there. But then she was on her first plane ride at 4 days old. So she's kind of been jumping around too. So
that's so cool to tell her friends that she was born in Hawaii.
Right?
So that's a cool party trick.
Yeah, it's a cool flex.
Yeah, on all those especially now.
She doesn't remember any of it, but it's a big flex.
Right now,
I'm born in Hawaii.
It's like back to school, like 2 truths and a lie. It's like I was born in Hawaii, and it's like really, yes.
But then, so we lived on Molokai for 3.5 years, and then kind of, or like Isla was getting ready to go to school and stuff, and it wouldn't be a great spot for kids to go to school per se. So I ended up taking a job in southern Arizona. So we moved to, it was kind of south of Phoenix, in between Phoenix and Tucson. Loved Arizona. And that's kind of when we started our entrepreneurship journey. And honestly, we found acai bowls and several things. That's a long way down the line, but that's kind of when we started eating them.
Yeah, it's huge out there. Yeah, and you're like, oh, like the Midwest didn't even know what that was.
Yeah,
I think that's say that word.
But that's a big piece of it, right? It's like as you travel around, like you see these things that are like different, and like certain communities and towns will have them. They're like, oh, there's a huge gap or a need for that, like in St. Louis, you know. So
you were in Arizona. So what brought you guys back to St. Louis then? Was
it work so it was my corporate job. Yep. So they moved us there. And I know, right? And then, I worked in Texas for a while, in Lubbock, Texas, and then got moved here to St. Louis to kind of head up an engineering team. Since then, so Whitney's, our entrepreneurship wise, Whitney started a sign company in Arizona. We did that for a few years, and it did really, really well. It's kind of like interior signs she makes. She designed them all like an illustrator.
I didn't do that.
It was basically all wholesale. Yeah, she wholesaled them to
like 5. I know. I worked with 5 stores in Texas for a while, and then up until like last year, I still have signs in one of our Texas stores and stuff too. But I work with one of my really good friends who owns a shop in Texas still. So we, I think a year and a half ago or 2, we took a whole trailer full down there. So we still kind of do that on the side and stuff.
It worked out better for us just to wholesale them because like Etsy, you got to deal with every single one and package them and all that. We could just literally mass produce them and ship them.
Yeah. So when we moved to Missouri, it was like we kind of like downsized that, but I still kept up with her. So we would ship her like 3 or 4 pallets, and like she would just sell them. And it was just a nice creative outlet.
Yeah, to get your creative juices flowing. So you guys started in that. Obviously, you were in the corporate world, but you were more in that entrepreneurship. So where did the corporate world become too much? Where you were like, hey, I wanna help with some of this. Was there like a moment in your career that you were like, I like that lifestyle better? Or?
Yeah, I think it's always been like I grew up on being self-employed, right? And my parents owned a grocery store for a while, and they also farmed, and it's just kind of a different life. It's just one of those things where like you kind of control your destiny. And it's, I don't know. I think we've always just had that want or like burning desire to like build something. There was a couple like key moments. I think we were having a retirement party for a guy, and we could only spend like $100 on his like retirement dinner.
After
you know what I mean?
Years,
and it was and it was like everybody kind of coming together and like chipping in to throw this guy a party. And he was like a huge leader for like 50 years. And it's just like, like you can work your entire life away and get a cake, you know what I mean? Or like try to build something that you can like hand off to your kids and if they want to, right? And do something else that's more meaningful and more impactful. So
no, that is interesting because you can't hand your job down.
Right.
No, you can't.
Well, and you're on the chopping block too. Like, I mean, you have put in, 40, 50 years, but then if like there's cuts, it's not necessarily who's,
they
who's
look at
great.
how much they get paid. They're like, oh, that guy gets paid way more.
Yeah.
He's been here. And we can get 3 younger guys that make just as much
for sure.
as that.
So, I mean, it's a blessing, on one hand, but then it's also like, okay, like you're going to be doing this for how many years, and there's the stress and, just kind of that corporate climb and stuff. Or you can kind of, do that, but then like sprinkle this other stuff in, see where it goes.
And I'm not knocking that by any way. Like there's a need for that. And like you could even be an entrepreneur, right? And I've done that a lot. And
that's actually one of the best.
Oh, for sure.
Grow with somebody else's
and
risk.
you're protected,
Absolutely.
right?
Yeah.
Like if it doesn't end up working out, it's somebody else's dime, So
we've had Emily for Salon, but Andy talks about that all the time.
For sure.
Entrepreneurship. He's like, everybody like sees the internet and they like, oh, I want to be like Gary Vee or Grant Cardone. And it's like, not everybody's built for that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you have to be able to handle just like crazy amounts of stress. And I even think like entrepreneurship's not for everybody. Yeah, you have to be able to handle it.
It's not. I mean, especially now. I mean, it's even harder today than it. I mean, it just depends. It's easy because we have so much information, and we can find out stuff and we can grow faster. But at the same time, it's like, it's so competitive, but also the margins are higher. People need to be paid more. And like, we can't charge more for what we're like, you guys know. I mean, you guys are in a very small margin business. So it's like, how can we, so before we get into the Berrybox, I want to talk about some other things. So you have the sign company. What else have you guys done over the years then?
We were actually, we kind of, after we moved to St. Louis, we were in that sort of, spot and stuff. It's like he was traveling almost like every day of the week. And we're like, oh my gosh, like, we're going to keep doing this forever. So we kept like, we had this big whiteboard in his office, and it was like, like what, like just different ideas of what we can do. And so we started.
I solve a lot of things on whiteboards.
Yeah. It's just like
I love a good one.
everything. But, we had like a list of different businesses, and, we kind of, and I don't know if it was because we didn't necessarily trust ourselves yet, but we're like, well, let's look into franchising. Let's figure out, like this looks good. We looked into different food franchises, different, we like all sorts of different franchises and stuff. And then we ended up, when we were in Lubbock, Texas once, we saw this coming soon sign for just kind of like a newer non-toxic nail salon franchise. And we're like, this looks cool. Like, this looks like something I would go to. This looks like something that St. Louis, would love to. I kind of like put myself in that position. Like, if I would go, like, I do think other people would go. And so, yeah, we kind of started, like, the next business was in the franchising world. And that's a whole thing as well. Like,
and that was more recently. That was
that was after we moved here. So we started that process about 2018. So we moved back here around 2017 and like jumped kind of right into doing that. And so we opened that in 2019, and obviously kind of had, our first franchise in the service industry with a pandemic.
COVID
and
hitting like 6 months after
okay,
we
we
opened.
planned everything
Signed
out.
a big old lease.
10-year lease.
So we had that, and then we sold that probably 2.5 years ago to do this next venture.
So do you think that you succeeded, or was that, what would you call that?
That's what I was going to call it. Like, it's like you're being kind of humble. There was more in there in between the
Yeah.
dash. So yeah, she started that. I mean, you won
Yeah.
St. Louis A-list. Like, she had like the #1 nail salon in St. Louis. I think we were.
So you did succeed.
Yeah. So like from a franchise perspective, we were like #2, and it was Paint Nail Bar in Brentwood, right? We were like #2 and #3 in the country. So she did it. Like, she did exceptionally well at it.
Right. You're being very humble right now.
Yeah.
But that's why I say, like, because you sold it pretty quickly, but like, that's why I said, like, do you see it as a success? Obviously, there's ways that you can look at it, but there's also ways that you can't. You probably figured out what you might not want to do going forward.
Yeah.
Well, it was one of those things too. Like, we sat down and looked at like, how do we scale that, and it was going to be extremely hard to scale just because it was so hard. Like, you had to be present in there. We couldn't like open 2 or 3 of those and like have that be repeatable without her physically being in there and having that same experience. So we had like, I'd fell in love with acai bowls over COVID, and it's kind of where Berrybox comes in. And I was just making them like every single day at home and just got fascinated with them. Yeah. And then I was sitting like looking at emerging markets and everything else. And like, you've seen like just kind of more health food. Well, it's COVID too, right? Everybody wanted to get healthier. And you've seen just like the health food market, but health food that tastes good, just kind of really, really expanding across the country. And we sat down and thought that was a huge opportunity to not necessarily just be a franchisee like we were in that company, but actually be the franchisor and like build a brand and a brand that you can actually scale and take from there. So that's really what we wanted to do.
Was that after you sold? Or was
No,
that
it was before we sold. Yep.
So you were like, all right, we got to get out of this, free up our time, get some capital.
Well, and it started out as kind of a joke, and it, for us and stuff, like we actually started doing 75 hard and doing all that stuff. So we would take our daily walks outside.
Pandemic. You guys were locked in.
Yeah, we would take our daily walks and stuff, and he was like, all right, like, what do we call this thing? What do we do? And so, everything, it was just kind of like each day was like another page of like this,
so
like,
many businesses were born
dream.
out of that time.
Yeah.
I felt like we had
Everybody
the most time of our lives then. And you're like, okay.
Well, and it's just like, the other one, was stressful. So it was like, like, honestly, like, I think my biggest success with it was just my personal growth. Like, I went from, kind of doing my own thing to then all of a sudden it's like, okay, like, not only do we have clients and customers, we've got 20-something staff, like, and just my own mindset, like, that was a huge thing of just like figuring out, okay, like, I can either let this stress like completely, tear me down and like, do this, or like I have to switch my mindset and like, figure out how to like pull out of it and stuff. So I think that growth was like my biggest success, like out of that whole thing. And then, as we kind of started with, just this dream thought of Berrybox, we started realizing like, I don't know, there was like this different light to it. There was this like happiness, this like passion that like, hey, it's just like this passion. Yeah, this passion came out. And when, we actually ended up signing a lease with the City Foundry while we had, paint and stuff. And we were like, okay, we'll just juggle both. And then, when we really started diving deep into it, it's like, we don't have those same feelings that we do with paint. Like, it would be a disservice to keep doing that without that passion like we have for Berrybox. Like, Berrybox was just like, I don't know, it was just like this freedom thing. Like we were like, we can do so much with it. And so that kind of, it went from like this little dream on these like 75 hard day walks to then like, okay, like actually we can do this. And we had a relationship with City Foundry because before we ended up opening in Brentwood, we had talked to them about putting a paint there, and then everything kind of got delayed with that. And so we called them up. We're like, hey, so we're not going to do it like a second nail location. What do you guys think about this? We took them this, we didn't have anything. We didn't like.
I don't know how I convinced. It was two people with no restaurant experience trying to take a spot.
They don't
City
trust
Foundry,
us.
right?
We're actually doing that anymore. Like, oh, this sounds like a really strong tenant.
Exactly.
And so we just took them like, some bowls, and we're like, we think this would be really awesome in here. Like we don't have any like history of it, but like we know we'll make it work.
We were able to sell it. So
and they had faith in us. Yeah, they had faith in us.
Awesome.
And
yes, we signed that December of 2021.
Yeah.
And then it just took a long time. Right, the pandemic hit, like big developments like that. There were delays on construction and everything else. And then kind of in the middle of that, we actually, Joe Goldberg, who owns True Fusion, he was building a second True Fusion location at the Foundry. And he actually reached out to us and he's like, hey, I got this spot in Clayton. It's where like Revel used to be and nobody's in it. Like we'd love to have you guys come and take a look at that. So it was just like almost like a turnkey location, just kind of handed to us,
perfect,
right?
Like gym, it's like
you got built-in clientele. It was
very
perfect.
Little, like the overtaking of like having what you did with the nail salon.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, you were like,
you don't have to do full build out, everything like that. Exactly.
Yeah.
I can't do that again. So how did you guys? First of all, Berrybox. Let's talk about the name. So what were some of the other names before Berrybox? Because I want to see these and who shut them down. Or was Berrybox one of the?
It was one of the first ones.
It always is one of the.
Well, and it came from like. We were thinking of just like, quick words. You got Starbucks, and then like
it has to be something you can remember.
Like Blackberry was the one, and we're like Blackberry, berry, like, and we're like Berry Bowl, Berry. We just kept like kind of like putting different names in it and stuff. But it was definitely one of the first ones.
Berry was a word.
But it has to be something catchy, and then also something that you could get like a trademark on, right? So it's trying to make one word. So. Yeah, and luckily, trademark story. Whenever we filed that, there was like a wine company called Berrybox, and they ended up denying my trademark because of that, and we had to like fight that with an attorney and ended up getting it released and stuff. But
is that why you had to like put it together, or is that different?
No? We're good. We just had to say it's just acai bowls and smoothies, excluding wine, and then we're good to go.
So no wine in your future.
No wine, right?
No wine. So we can't start serving alcohol, but it's totally fine.
That's cool. But yeah, I think that obviously the branding, that's one of the things is like a lot of people, and I'm victim of this when I started my brand. Like I made this logo on Canva a long time ago when I was 22 years old, but like I can't go back because it's that. Like if I started another business, my next company will be very thought out and not like as far as like dragging things out. Like I just know the processes that I would go through. Did it help being in a franchise to be like, I know exactly how I want to build this?
Oh yeah, for sure. It's like a business in a box. And like if you're just kind of getting into the entrepreneurship world, like it's honestly, it's nice. Like they teach you how to train people. You get all the operations manuals. They show you how to market. They have like their own social media teams and stuff, right? Yeah. So if you're just starting a business with like zero experience, like it ends up being a really good deal.
When you learn the good and the bad, like you learn like the whole thing kind of just like in that little nest of it. So
and no, that's interesting. So you guys opened up both locations, obviously, killing it this year. What has been one of the things with running you're a hospitality business, and like you guys said, you made them at home. That's completely different than making them at that. So what are some of the struggles, because you guys aren't there? I mean, I go to the Foundry a lot. You're not there every day anymore like you were at one time. But like, what are some of the struggles in building a team in the hospitality business that you're like, wow, I did not know how hard this actually was?
Sure.
You guys have any of those?
I mean, overall, it hasn't been, I would say that area hasn't been terrible. I think people is still kind of the biggest hurdle to get through probably in any business, right? It's how do you attract, develop, and retain quality people.
You guys do a great job of that. Your guys' teams are great.
Yeah, we tried to.
I feel like, I don't know, like we've talked about God and stuff before.
I
feel like we literally have been blessed with like an amazing team. And I think just going off of what he said, I think the biggest struggle is just sharing your vision, because we know where we're going to go with this. Like we know how big we want it to be. And it's like, when you have someone coming in, say as like an assistant manager, and they're looking for opportunity, it's like, you tell them this, and then it's like, okay, we're a year in, and it's like, yes, we have
what
2
actions
locations.
Are you taking?
Yeah.
Exactly. And you're trying to tell them up front, like, it may be doing smoothie smoothies and making acai bowls here initially, right? But like we're literally building a franchise company, and like this will be your job maybe for a couple years, but like you're going to be on the ground floor of seeing this business get built, and like there's going to be like regional directors and opportunities that if you'll stick around and kind of go on this journey with us, like there's going to be those roles.
So I think that's the hardest part.
It's just casting that vision
to young people,
getting to
any
see
people,
that.
but mostly young. It's a young person job.
Just the opportunity that's to come when it's not like physically right there quite yet.
And when you guys are super clear on it, but you sometimes are like, I don't know how clear we are. Like you're still like you're really clear on the vision, but you're like, okay, but some things have to fall in place.
For sure.
Yeah.
But a lot of people go to work for these large companies, and there's opportunities there, right? But that's kind of where everybody else goes to work too, right? So it's a lot harder to kind of get to where you want to go. But if you go to a lot of these like small and medium sized companies, like you crush it. Like you'll get up that ladder much quicker.
It all comes down to people. Like all the AI in the world, all the stuff in the world, it all comes down to people. And my team is the same. Like we've never had to fire anybody yet. They either quit on their own or like, which has been great because I always like, I'm not good at those things either.
No, we are either. Like it's never, it's not easy. Terrible. It's not fun. It's not anything.
But we've had people, we used to, without saying like pay, but like we pay great, but like we used to not be able to. So being able to like convince people to say, hey, you should work here, for this reason.
Right.
But like having the same people, I always tell my my partner Kyle, I'm like, retention is our number one thing.
Absolutely.
You guys have an account manager. If that account manager no longer works with us, then we lose. We then will lose business, and that's the thing is like, so no matter what we have to do to retain the people that we already have is the number one thing.
Because we've still got
you don't have to
people
train.
too.
You don't have to keep training people. It's like, I don't want to train people every week.
Oh, it's expensive.
Hey, Monday open hires, training, Monday.
Yeah.
Like when I see companies that say open hiring things, I'm like, that's a company. Yeah. In my opinion, I know it's tough, but I see that and I'm like, oh, like group hires or like, hiring fair or something like that. I'm like, ooh.
Well, it comes down to like creating that experience. And I think people want to work at an exciting place too, right? Like we get, I don't know, 4 or 5 people a week just reach out and apply for positions that we don't even necessarily have open, right? So we'll have to post stuff on Indeed occasionally just for like full-time positions, but like it's been really good. But yeah, like from a restaurant perspective too, I think everything is changing, like talking about AI and everything else, to how do you create that experience, right? How do you go to a restaurant and get like a feeling? Because that's really what makes people want to come back. That's kind of the same thing we did in when we owned the salon as well. It's like, okay, this is different. And we've taken that through several aspects of our business, right? Like we handwrite messages on the outside of all of our cups. And like we've had several people come up like, are these printed? And it's like, no, we literally write those.
Right.
And our staff, I think they do like one sleeve of cups, like a shift, right? So it's nothing terrible, but it's kind of
keep up with the
exactly.
Well, just so everyone has it and stuff. Like it kind of ended up being like it was like one of those happy accidents and stuff. Like our manager in Clayton at the time,
Taylor,
she
shout out to Taylor.
Literally just wrote, like, hey, so and so, have a great day. It was like right when we had first opened, and like I read it and I was like, oh my gosh, this makes me so happy. Like
it's Instagram
we should write right. Well,
exactly.
And so
it's
we're like,
cow,
okay, like
right?
where can we take this? Like where can we go with this? And then it was like, we decided like it has to be positive, has to be motivational and action oriented because there's so many things out there. It's like you can read every self-help book, listen to every podcast on things and stuff, but unless you take that action to actually, make the change or do something different, like nothing's ever going to change. So we want it to be something where like, when people come to Berrybox, like, we have like cool bowls and everything else, but it's like if they read a message, like maybe that's their, sign that they, needed to hear that day to like go do something. Like, business is hard. We know that. Like there are a lot of hard things out there, but you also don't know until you try. So.
Yep.
I think that's interesting. I love the handwritten things. And it's one of those things that a lot of people do and then you stop when you scale. So that hopefully that's one thing that will stay.
Yeah.
I think that will. That's like that's your guys' thing.
On some Saturdays when they got like 500 or so going out, but we used to keep doing it.
No, I know. Someone's back there just like
the messages. Do you guys send them or do they?
So we've
got a big binder of like 300.
Yeah. But then some of the, girls that like Pinterest, they like will find different ones and stuff too. And we're like, hey, as long as they fit these like kind of standards.
Yeah, we got criteria we call it. Because like she said, we want them to be action oriented.
Yeah.
Like we don't want people to be a victim of their own life, right? We want you to like take action to get to where you want to go. Like that's the biggest thing. So
and not like just a trendy thing that would be funny.
Yeah.
No, these are real actionable things.
Yeah.
It does make, like you said, the purple cow moment. And that's another great book is like make your product, sell itself after people leave.
Absolutely.
The experience part of it is huge because I just talked to another guy in hospitality right before this. And when people create experiences, like people are getting away from this fast casual movement. In places even, at the Foundry and all these places where there's nobody that even talks to you there.
Yeah, we'll never have a kiosk to order,
crazy.
Yeah, it's intentional.
it's crazy because then they still ask for a tip when I order on a kiosk.
Yep.
And I'm like, the tip culture is another thing that's crazy too, but I get it. You have to, and there are places where you need it, but like that, and then the kiosk, like yes, it's great. Online ordering's great. You need to have it. But like when you go to pick up your food, like somebody's going to hand it to you, or, people are going to talk to you there's places I'm like, dude, I don't think I'll go there again. And I like their food and I like their stuff, but I won't go there. I don't feel good. I don't feel good. Even if it's $15 and it's not that much money, I'm like, I don't feel like I got a good value.
Absolutely.
I want to feel like I bought a $12 bowl. Yes, that's expensive for a bowl, but not expensive, but like, yes, that's a lot of money for something. And I want to feel like a kind of value. It's a value exchange.
Well, that somebody like appreciates you being there. Like, that like it's not just a transaction. Like you're actually a person. And that's what I love about, even just our team, and again, kind of going back to Clayton and stuff, just because of the gym, like, I mean, the staff, like they know the orders of the, gym members.
Yeah, we got custom buttons on there for a few of the gym members that order them every day.
Yeah, the trainers and everything else. It's like that relationship building. I mean, we're in the fruit business. We didn't invent fruit, but it's like we want to make that an experience. Like it's a fruit experience with it.
And it's a health and wellness experience.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And like what you guys said, you guys going above and beyond on like the materials that you guys use in these, which I'm sure that was probably another challenge.
Yeah. It was. So we
that was like
we went to probably 50 different acai bowls, coffee shops, like everywhere. So I was like,
you're like, listen, I grew up on a farm.
Right.
You're like, no, I'm not kind
we
of.
We were raising blueberries. We went like to Florida. We went to a ton, and Texas on the East Coast. Like, there's a lot you can learn too, just from going to other places. Like, oh, this is cool. Like, let's take that back to what they do. And so like we literally went through that entire bowl. Like we tried probably 50 or 60 different like types of acai. Like everybody and their brother sells that stuff, and like we found a specific one that we like. A lot of our other bases, we have a company like on the East Coast that makes this for us, right? So we're shipping these bases in from multiple places. I went to Schnucks and Deerbergs and Fresh Time and everywhere else in Walmart trying to buy granola, and then we were at I think Tower Grove, the farmer's market, and found Louise's granola.
So
they've been awesome too. And like we tried that. I'm like, I think this is what we need. So we met them at Caldi's one morning for coffee, and we hatched out a granola deal. And they're producing hundreds of pounds of granola for us. So
you guys are they're big. Like
they're awesome.
I buy from them all the time because it's so much better than other granola.
Oh, it is.
So
night
good, and it
it's
melts.
awesome.
It's so good.
It is.
And they do kind of a custom like nut-free blend for us. But get it in cases.
You guys are using other local makers for bread and
Need,
other
yeah,
things.
Yeah, we got
Baker.
Need coming in for bread. Same thing though. We tried a whole bunch of different
best.
sourdough, and like you can't beat Need. It's awesome.
They're so good.
And then we didn't like the thickness on it, so we got like our own like actual industrial bread slicer to get it a little bit thicker, just to make it good.
Well, that's been like the other part of it is, I mean, our kind of like development of Berrybox has just been like really a bootstrap kind of thing. We, started doing things, and then, we had found this really cool place in Chicago. Then all of a sudden we realized a few months later, like they shut down 5 locations. So then we went up with like a truck and trailer, like downtown Chicago.
We were Googling, and I found the auction company that was auctioning off all their stuff. And it was
smart.
Like 2 of the locations were like completely brand new. So we ended up getting almost everything we needed from a couple auctions. And like if you're starting a restaurant, I would totally encourage you, like BCL auction. They're here in St. Louis, and we bought a ton of stuff from them. But like it's a way to get a business started like that, right? And not have just a ton of capital, and you can still get
brand new money. And that's some of the things that like if you buy a franchise, a lot of times they're like, oh, buy all new stuff.
You have to buy
from their vendor because they get a cutback from their vendor.
That's just exactly how it works.
Just knowing going from franchise to our own thing and stuff. It's like, okay, like minimal debt, like we want to make sure, we can make this thing work and not kind of put ourselves in a situation.
It wasn't like a proven concept, right? I mean, we're just kind of rolling the dice. So these first couple locations, like
if it doesn't work, we don't want to have a bunch of bank loans or investor loans out.
Exactly.
That's kind of like been this whole like story of like, this business forming is just like kind of the right time, the right place, the right people, like things just like, even like you guys coming in with us, our graphic designer, Megan, like, she's a magician at what she does and stuff too, because like it's like we have all these ideas and things, and we just like shoot her an email, and it's like for someone to take like what's in our brain and actually make something of it. She created our logo, like so
you need stuff like that, like the
so
graphics
like
look amazing, by the way, too. She did an incredible job, but like even like the social requests that you get, like having somebody that can just complete a task so that you can focus on something else. Even though you could do it on social media, you can do on your own, but it's like to have somebody, and I think that's why I told you that when I'm like, dude, this is going to save you 10 hours a week. How much is is that worth to you?
Well, and just like
Yeah.
our team, like I talk to our team a lot about, it's like forming a football team, right? You need
Yeah.
people to do all these different tasks,
Right.
right? Like I
Yeah.
need a designer, we need somebody doing social media, we need an accountant, we need an attorney, we need
Yeah.
all these different players on
Yeah.
that team, right, to make us successful. Because like graphic designer, I hired somebody off Fiverr like right after we like
Yeah.
Of course.
did the
Yeah.
LLC
You
paperwork.
try $5. Yes.
And it was, he did a great job, but it was, we went to talk to Megan and she did some other work for us. Megan at Praxis Design. She's awesome.
Yeah.
She's like, I don't think this is what you want. And she she redid several things for us, and
Revamped the
it
whole
looks
thing.
awesome. She
It
crushed it.
just makes
so.
a big difference, and it comes back to like the bootstrapping a business. It's
Yep.
like
Yeah.
when you try to do it too much though, it's like, hey, I do need to put money out, even though there's no
Absolutely.
ROI there. Like,
Yep.
yes, you could have rocked with that logo, but like now it's like you have something that you're proud
Yeah,
of.
now it matters.
Now when you look at a franchisee comes to you, they can look at your social media and look
Yep.
at high quality photography every
Exactly.
day. Like
Absolutely.
there's things that are worth it, and some of them aren't trackable by ROI,
Yeah.
but that's okay.
No, for
Some of
sure.
it's just a branding play.
Absolutely.
No, and you
Um,
guys have been awesome at that too. Like
yeah.
you guys have managed our socials for a little over a year,
Yeah.
and it's been it's
it-
been awesome. It lets us like focus on the important stuff, like
Yeah.
how do we actually run this place and expand and grow and
Yeah.
focus our attention there. And
Not know what the trends are as he's like texting me like, "What's this Pookie thing?" Like I'm like,
yeah, Kate's done a
I know.
couple things. I sit there, I'm like, this isn't on my
He's
algorithm.
like,
what is this?
But people like it.
But those
like,
are your
what is
customers,
this?
though.
Right?
No, I know
Kate
what
is
it
your
is.
ideal customer.
She's great. Yeah.
Right?
Kate is like, you have to look like, who's my ideal customer? Oh,
Right.
it's probably Kate.
Right
Yep.
there.
So
exactly.
Right there.
then
But
it's
no, she
like
crushes it.
finding that. But yeah, we struggle with that too, because with social media, we're in an industry where it's like
Ever changing.
everybody needs
Yep.
it, but then it's like everybody doesn't. It's the first thing they don't need
Absolutely.
when there's a struggle. So
Yeah.
we have people not fire us, but let us go when just because their business is
Finance.
going through a wrong thing. Because
Yeah.
we're like, oh, I can't cut that person. I got to cut this
Right.
person. So, but I think that, it's like providing value. And it's the same with our business. It's like we don't have the best technology, the best systems, but it's just we're a customer service business.
Absolutely.
We're a service business. So
Absolutely.
we provide a service and we provide, this is what they get in the service. And as long as it makes sense with how much time that everybody puts in, but yeah, it's just like you guys, everything is customer service and
Yeah.
sales, and
Yep.
it's like there's only so many people in St. Louis. So it's like, okay, how many times can they come back
Yeah.
and eat here at Berrybox or grab here? Like regulars are your guys' business when it comes
Absolutely.
down to it. The nice thing about being at the gym and at City Foundry is you get more walk-ins than normal, but as you guys build that brand, so let's talk about that. Well, actually, let me talk about this. You guys are husband and wife.
Yes. Yes.
How do you guys work together? Because my wife and I do some things together, but she has her own career. She's a teacher.
Sure.
We do this together, the podcast. And like sometimes we're just like, hey, did you do that? Did you do the show notes or did you do the cover art? And it's like, it's hard to work with
Right.
your partner a little bit because there's like,
It
it's
can
hard
be.
to tell them
Yeah.
what to do
Yeah.
sometimes. I
Yeah.
mean, but you guys have done it for a long time. So
Yeah.
do you have any advice for people that are couples that are starting a business? Is there anything that you guys have learned?
I'll look at you.
Hey.
It's like,
I mean, I think for us is that through time and communication, like we know what each other's strengths are. Like, I know he's really good at, just the business side of things and all of that stuff. Like I probably have the more creative spirit of sorts. And so we just kind of know where each other like thrives better.
divide
And,
tasks,
then it's like then we don't put each other on that opposite task. Like he knows like I am not that numbers person. So like, don't ask me to do it. Otherwise it will get frustrating. And then, I think like just one of the biggest blessings for like our marriage has been like we go on nightly walks together. And that's kind of
It's
when
been
we
a game
like
changer. We started
Yeah.
doing it during 75 Hard, but literally
Yeah.
just a 45-minute walk every night.
it's a long
Yeah.
time.
But it allows us to talk about like whatever business stuff we're talking about. Like
Yeah.
it just talks about us and just like get quiet for a
that
while
one
and
like focused
get
time and
outside.
stuff.
Like it's
Yeah.
it's been
Yeah.
awesome. It's been a game changer for
Yeah.
us.
But I think too, like going through, the nail salon, that was a whole different kind of stress. We learned a lot from that. Like there was a lot with that we kind of, we probably struggled more then because he couldn't be there. Like, he has his corporate job and everything. So it was more me. So he wasn't as hands-on with, the day-to-day stuff. So it was kind of like figuring out that balance of, okay, like I'm in there, now you're going to have to take the kids, and that was kind of like heartbreaking for me. It's like, man, I don't like missing Halloween or, these different holidays and stuff like that. So it's kind of like we went to these like role reversals. So navigating that. And then, with Berrybox, it was like, okay, like this is what's important. Like this is how we have to structure it from the very start. Like, for us, it was like, you can save money and not have a manager. You can do all that. Like, but then it's on you. So we were like, okay, like we've done that before. So let's, we know that's important to have extra hands like from the beginning. We're going to hire a manager. We're going to do these things just to help it so that like we know where we're at, just, kind of as like a family, specifically like just more family oriented and
Because
stuff.
you still have to do all the stuff behind the scenes, right? That's
Yeah.
not what a lot of people see, right? They don't see all the phone calls with the
Yeah.
state of Missouri for income tax and all
Yeah.
those different things, right? And it's a full-time job just kind of behind the
Yeah.
scenes too. I think too, it's just like work-life balance. Like you always hear that it's kind of trendy, right?
Yeah.
But I think it's complete crap. Like it's like as you look at your job and what you do, like it's how do you like work-life integration, right? It's how do you take your kids places, right? We got Brooks over here in the corner sitting here, right? It's like how do you like bring them along for the ride, and how do you make your job and kind of what you do not so bad that you can't just like take a phone call in the evening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think one of my favorite pictures was, I think it was like 2018. It just came up on my phone, and Brooks was like 3. He was in a Mr. Incredible costume. We were at a bank getting ready to sign, for something for the nail salon and stuff. And it was like, bringing your kids to like see those things, like, just they've seen the good, the bad, the ugly with it. They've seen, like, oh my gosh, this was a great day, or this was, a great month. And then they've seen, me cry, about, something. So it's like seeing kind of like all aspects of the business, was so important. And,
Well, they'll take that forever. I mean, you grew up on a farm, you saw that side of the business.
Yeah.
And I've been taking Mila in to work, and like one day she's going to like think I'm either really cool or not really cool, depending on what I'm doing at that moment. But like just being able to, like, my wife's a teacher, she can't do that. So like I'm like, oh, you're going to work with dad, like hopefully that's a cool thing. Or just like driving around, or the work-life balance, you're correct, is like there is no such thing. And Emily said this on Emily Frisella said this on the podcast, and she said Tim Grover said, if you look at a scale, it's balanced. It's never going to be completely balanced. So I'm giving 100% to my family the last 6 months, and like now my business, I had to like figure that out because I'm on this side because I'm giving 100% to my family. But then there's, a month where I'm like, I'm going to give 100% to my business because I need to set ourselves up for hiring that next person. I'm like, I'm going to crush it, get a couple more deals. And then now so it's like you're always, and then I'm like, I have the block in here from 5 to 7 p.m. That's family time. So no phone from 5 to 7 p.m. I'm cheating a lot, but if I give 2 hours, because then bedtime and then boom, now I can go work after. It's like, or I might have to stay up. But and she said that, like, I forgot the exact quote, I'll have to send it to you, but like Tim Grover said, balance is bullshit. Because it's not, you're never going to get it. Even in a corporate job.
Yeah. Well, like you were saying, like, we listened to a podcast with Ed Milet too. And I mean, he said the exact same thing. He's like, when you're with your family, be all in. But when you're at work, be all in. Because otherwise you have this guilty feeling. If you're trying to balance, you're at work and you're like, oh, I should really be at home. I should really be doing this. And it's like, just give all that while you're there and then give all that while you're at home.
And most of the time it's not as important as you think to respond to that email or to, sometimes it is. And when it is, then you can say, hey, I'm going to step out for 1 minute. Boom. And now my wife knows that. At first it was hard because she's like, you're always working. Now I'm just like, hey, this is really important. I'm going to go run. I'll be right back.
But I think that's the relationship piece, right? If you have a spouse that's constantly shaming you for like taking an email at like 9 o'clock at night, that's not going to work out very well, right? So
no,
it's having that understanding.
It's hard. And especially when you build, like, because when you first meet the person, life is completely different. You guys were, in college, and then now it's like, now we have 2 kids, 3, almost 3. So congratulations, by the way.
Thank you.
So what is the future of Berrybox? Because you mentioned being a franchisor, but you also mentioned, that there might be a possibility that you guys own and operate some more of these as well. Is the St. Louis market, are there any markets that you guys really like, or is there anything you could share with us about the future?
Yeah, for sure. So we kind of strategically opened up like one inside of a food hall. We got one inside of a gym. We'll probably do one inside of like a strip mall at some point too. But we'll keep opening like our own stores. Like it's been going really well, and we'll keep doing that. But in addition to that, I think through our experience with the last business, right, franchising can really be an opportunity where you can either be just for the franchisor, or you can really set them up to where it can be beneficial for everyone that's involved in it. So we're really going to go into like franchising and probably licensing to expand and grow that way too, right? So it's how do you partner with people, families and people that want to start their own business but like need that help and support. And franchising does an awesome way of doing that. So we're actively talking to some attorneys to get a lot of that legal infrastructure. It's mainly a legal exercise just to get all of that put in place, and quite expensive. So we'll be going through that. But in the meantime, we're still going to be opening up some of our own locations. I'd love to get one kind of out here further west. So we'll
St.
see.
Charles County area.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just kind of wherever it makes sense.
Yeah.
We've been
Yeah.
talking
We've
about
even
that.
randomly talked to like Nashville, like we've, and it's like
Yeah.
we're trying, starting those conversations and stuff. Like
Yeah.
we talked to like a food place in Nashville and stuff too. Like we love going to Nashville, but
Yep.
it's like there's still a lot of opportunity in St. Louis to keep expanding here. And then it's like, okay, like getting our feet wet in other places and stuff.
Need an
like
excuse to go to Nashville. You're like, I'm gonna go check.
Right,
He's like, I'm gonna go
right.
check this weekend.
Right.
Same time as the Zach Bryan concert.
Right?
Yeah, for
So,
sure.
so
Cater
Zach
that
Bryan's in
concert,
town. I gotta go.
right?
Yeah, the manager called off. I gotta get down there.
But that's really what we've been doing like this first year is just like
Yeah.
get processes in place, get people trained, get
Yeah.
like all of our infrastructure done.
Yeah.
'Cause we had no intention of opening 2 locations in a year. I mean, that the gym, like it was like just one of those unexpected blessings that came up. So we joke we opened our second location before our first, but it truly helped us work out a lot of kinks. No matter how much you plan on paper, when you start putting, humans and actual like processes in place, like things are going to mess up. So we spent, kind of this last year, it's like, okay, like we're going to fix things. We took things off the menu. We added things. Like there was a lot of different things that we needed to tighten up. And so we're going to continue to tighten those things up while also sort of looking at the future of like, okay, like we know just us, we can handle, this many more. And then, there comes a time when it's like, okay, like we can only be at so many places, at once. Like, so bringing on other people, it's like, all right, like if we want to get our name out there and just, be kind of a national brand and stuff too, it's like, finding other people at other places who kind of have that same like entrepreneur business mindset and stuff too.
And getting that, we talked earlier about the experience piece, and that's so important. And we've your hand right on cups. The other thing is like we don't charge extra for like additional toppings, and that was a huge thing too. Because like as I went to a lot of bowl shops, and like you would always get nickel and dimed, right? If you want to add strawberries, if you want to add peanut butter, whatever it was,
chips or whatever.
Yeah.
it's like it's $1.50.
Yeah.
And I hated that. So you'll see our bowls are kind of priced just slightly higher than everybody else, but basically like we don't charge you extra. Like if you want coconut and chocolate chips and kiwi on it, like we're not going to nickel and dime you and charge you extra
You
compared
just
to
work
other
that
places.
into what it
Exactly.
is, and you expect that most people aren't
Yep.
going to get
Yeah,
like
we-
72
Unless
things.
you want 3
Well, we
times
put-
as much as like, peanut butter and stuff.
And
but,
like fruit and stuff, like we
uh,
put 3 ounces of fruit on there. It can be
Yeah.
1, it can be 7, like
Yeah.
it's still 3 ounces. And
Yeah.
from a cost perspective, it's not significantly changing our cost, right?
So you mentioned the licensing and franchising. So
Yep.
what for people that don't know, so like, if somebody's interested in getting into that, so basically you provide a lot of back end support, you help them with the whole process opening, and then you help them every
Exactly.
month. There's options like consulting and like
Yeah.
really helping it.
Yep.
So this could be anybody. This could be a couple with a stay-at-home parent that's like, hey, let's get a second source of income.
Absolutely.
Like that could,
Yep.
there's opportunity for
Yeah, we
that.
do everything from like helping find a contractor, helping with all the design specs of the entire place. Like we've got architects that we use, all the way through like startup support. Like we'll be on site, like helping you open a place.
And it's like a lot of
all the
mistakes
vendors.
we made,
Basically you're
yeah.
paying for all the mistakes and everything else that you would go through
Yeah,
if you're
business
not
in a
buying a
box.
business
Yeah.
like that.
Berrybox.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you need to give them like a nice little box.
All right, just have
Exactly,
like,
right?
That's
They
what we
open
always
it
thought
up.
about, like a little Build-A-Bear box, like some
Yeah.
sort of like Build-A-Bear box sort of thing. That
With
we
all
could,
your
like,
documents
Yeah,
in there.
could
Yeah.
We
do,
tried
like-
to find like cool square bowls. We're still working
Yeah.
on that, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think that, it comes down to anything with scalability. It's just like, how many, each location, if they're profitable,
Yeah.
then you can just
sure.
keep opening up
Yeah.
more
Exactly.
locations. But then it comes to the point of like, mentioned Nashville. It's like, that's like really far away. It's not
Exactly.
really, but it's far away.
No, but if
it's
like a
5
freezer breaks, it's 4 hours
Yeah.
away. You know what I mean? So it's a
Yeah.
different
and you
story.
don't, that's a good opportunity for a licensing deal or franchising
sure.
deal.
Yeah.
But as you get those managers, like you might have a manager that
That's the
lives in
thing.
St.
Yeah, it's the
Charles that when
team.
you guys open up something in St. Charles County, they're like, oh, I would love to run that. Boom,
Exactly.
We're done.
Yeah.
We're already good to go. We
Yep.
can open it up.
So
Getting
as you
those
scale, it
core
gets easier.
team people in place and stuff, like that's huge. Like it's a game changer for every business.
Yeah, that's amazing. So, man, we went through a lot.
All
We
right,
heard your guys'
I
love story.
know.
We did a baby announcement in
I
front of
know,
all of St. Louis.
yes,
Oh my
yes.
gosh.
Having a baby, yeah.
Yeah, that's
No,
amazing.
it was, I don't know, our first year in business, like
Yeah.
all the good things.
Yeah, no,
like,
it's been going great.
yeah, just yeah.
So is there anything, like any advice that you would give either one of you to like a younger entrepreneur? A lot of people that listen to our show are in their 20s and they're, everybody's like really interested in this type of life, but they don't exactly know how to get into it, or their parents don't want them to do that. Like, so is there any advice that you would give to like a young, entrepreneur or anything? Any of you guys got anything?
I mean, I think the biggest thing, like we were talking earlier about like managing risk. So like I bought a lot of used equipment, right? We tried to go through and literally like do things to where it would create the best experience possible, but also in a way that wasn't like crazy expensive, right? So if it didn't end up working, it doesn't completely tank your family, right? And that could even be just like go out and start selling something, right? Like start small, like start with pop-ups, start with different things to like before you jump ship and just completely build out $1 million restaurant, like try it, see if there's demand for it. And then the other thing entrepreneur-wise is just stress. Like it's stressful. There's just a lot of stuff that happens, a lot of stuff that you have to deal with, and you have to be able to handle that. So you need to just know that up front and before you get into it.
Well, you have to be able to, and I know we talked about the whole balance thing, but it's like, it doesn't, like your business doesn't stop. So
yeah, you'll get calls on the weekends.
Yeah, like last year, for us, it's like we had a lot of personal stuff. We had 2 miscarriages. Like we had, a lot of different things going on, but it was like business doesn't stop. Like we have an amazing team. Like he did wonderful, like kind of let me do what I needed to do and stuff too. And it was like, it's something that like, there's going to be things that come up, but like keep going, you can keep going, like you can keep pushing through, just like. My
biggest thing too is like compare myself to like Smoothie King, and like I'll even going through Chick-fil-A and I'll be like, I'm never going to be like, you know what I mean? It's just like stress just from going through Chick-fil-A. So it's not like comparing yourself to somebody else because they've been doing this for like 30 years. It's like, and then once you get open and get started and get going, like you still dial all your stuff in and it gets cleaner and cleaner and cleaner. But like just looking back a year, like we're so much better than we were just a year ago, and we're only 1 year in, right? So we'll just keep dialing that in and getting better. But
other entrepreneur stories, it's like we're in our beginning phase, like you guys and stuff too. It's like we're in our beginning phase, but you listen to even like you talked about Emily, like Andy Frisella's story, and like how First Form and all that stuff came. Like we've been to Summer Smash several times. Like we love the culture, the environment, and stuff of what they've created. But like they had 10 plus years of like
25 years.
Like 2000. Well, and just of like no success.
Oh yeah.
Like no success.
But like I mean, they've been doing it for 20.
So it's like
a lifetime.
So I mean,
just
it's
don't
like
quit.
not getting frustrated, like because stuff's not going to work. Like things aren't going to work and stuff. You're going to have to like pivot different things and everything. So it's like just figuring that out.
It goes back to like you mentioned the victim mindset, and I think that it's easy to have that mindset. Like especially I didn't know you went through that last year, and you went through this traumatic experience, and it's easy to be like, oh, we're not going to try again. But now you have this blessing coming.
Exactly.
And the big thing is like even it doesn't matter what we go through. It's like, oh, like my parents didn't have money when I grew up, or this didn't happen, and it's like it's actually the business world. It is hard, but it's actually not that competitive because there's not that many people that are doing it. Like what you guys are doing in Missouri right now. Just in Missouri, there might not even be a person that's trying to do what you're doing franchise wise. I mean, sure, there's like ones, but like there's not that many people you really have to beat to win. And it's the same with a lot of businesses. Even with our business, it's like there's a couple good ones out there, but there's not that many. And everybody needs it, and everybody needs what you have. So I think that's like the advice I always give to people is like, if you try, there's a good chance that 97% of other people are just working at their regular, and they might be happy, and that's fine. But it's like, just you trying, but it's uncomfortable to try. Like when you guys probably launched this, they're like, people are like, that's like.
Oh yeah, my parents were like,
sure.
they had no idea what it even.
And you did it in the city. They're like in the city.
Yeah.
Well, first it was like you're opening a nail salon. They look at him. They're like, what? Like you're
get your
wife
in
nail
check,
salon?
bro.
Like,
get your
and
girl.
then it was like, okay, so we're gonna sell this. We're gonna sell this, but we're gonna open up an acai bowl shop. And they're like, is that ice cream? Like, what are we doing?
Yeah,
with that?
he tried it the first time, and he's like, oh, is this like he hated it? And I'm like, you don't like it? And then he took another bite, and he's like, oh, okay, this is actually pretty good.
Yeah, but yeah, it's kind of and it's that goes back to just like. I don't know. It's good to have kind of like those I don't know, like we bounce ideas off each other, but you got to kind of turn off the noise too. Like people are always going to have an opinion. People are always going to say, something, whether it's positive or negative. And it's like, if you have that vision, if you have that dream, like you worked out, like we've worked out like the risks of like everything we were going to do. It's like, we're going to do it. Like we're going to figure out how to do it. We're going to get it done and stuff.
It's being okay doing it in spite of that too, right? Because I've had several consultants be like, you can't give toppings for free. Like it's just like
people are
it won't work. And you have some that do, right? But at the end of the day, like
it all works out.
Yeah, you have a feeling that person's coming back because we didn't charge them a whole bunch extra for the like extra
we do that
coconut
too.
on
like
top.
We always do free photo shoots for everyone, and people are like, oh, that's crazy. That's so much time. I'm like, we'll do
customer
4.
service.
We'll do 4 in 1 month, but there might be a month where we don't do one. So it all equals out.
Yeah.
But going back to the parent thing, my parents don't understand social media, but like they made an Instagram account, and my dad they're union contractors. Everybody in Wins, like everybody works in the union, electrics, bricklayers, all this stuff. And I never never worked in construct. Like I never, like I cut grass and I'm like, oh, that's not really for me. I'd rather do digital stuff. And like it used to be a big thing. Like, I don't know, you know, he's like the only one that doesn't do construction. And now my dad like listens and shows everybody pictures on Instagram. And like now it's like, and he's probably listening right now because he listens to every show. But now he's like, oh yeah, he's out there, he's killing. He's got office downtown. He got, you know, but like at first.
But they don't do that until you get to that point,
until
right?
You're like, until you have it. But even then, it's like they still don't understand,
right?
You know, because that's why I love the time we grew up in, and your kids and my kids is like now they can grow up knowing that they can do anything. When we didn't know that when we were younger, you didn't. You guys for sure didn't. You were like, I was going to work on a farm. Look how small your world is.
Absolutely.
You know, I'm sure it'd have been fine, but it's like you would have been a completely different. You'd be in like flannel. You'd be like a beer belly right now. You probably have a beer belly right now.
Absolutely right. Right.
No, complete gift from God. So.
Well, I appreciate you guys for making the time. I got one more question. Actually, one more question for you is the mental health question. So you guys talked about that mindset that you guys have. How we just partnered up with Birch Tree Recovery to really help entrepreneurs balance the mental health with business. So is there any advice that you guys would give? I know you talked about the walks already. I know that that's probably great, but is there any advice to stay stable during the ups and downs that you guys struggle with?
I think that's the biggest thing. At least that was the biggest game changer for me. One is working out. Like as much as I like the effects on my body and everything else, it's also my brain. Like I love that. And then two, just us going on a 45-minute walk every night, just getting outside, like realizing how small you are and how small your problems are in comparison to like everything else. That's always huge for me.
Yeah.
I think for me too is not being afraid to ask for help. Like last year, you know, going through all that stuff, like I did dive back into therapy and everything. And that was just a perfect thing for me, like not just with what we were going through, but just, you know, in general stuff, like, you know, kids, like, you know, just we've got a teenager and everything else. It's just like, you know, how can I be like the best person, like for my family, for, you know, our business and everything else. So I think it's just not being scared to ask for help and just like knowing when you need help and stuff too.
Yeah, being vulnerable.
Because you feel like you're the only one. You feel like nobody can help you, or you feel embarrassed to like get help. But I've talked to somebody, she's talked to somebody, and there's times in your lives when you need that. And so,
when you realize that there's hundreds of other people that are going
100%,
through the exact same thing.
Well, it helps you listen to other people too. I think that's the biggest thing for me. Just, you know, because I have had therapy and stuff before then too, but I think it helps you to become a better listener to other people as well, and you can just kind of like pick up on things just to, you know, I don't know, it just it changes things.
Yeah, that's great. Well, excited for you guys.
Thank
excited
you
for your new family.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Hopefully another Berrybox family too.
Right.
Sometime in the near future.
Yeah.
What about the bucket list? What's on your guys' bucket list? What are a few spots that like date night spots? Do you guys have any spots? They could be really whatever. I mean, it could be parks, could be activities, events that St. Louis has.
For sure.
I mean, anything on your specific bucket list?
I don't know if you call it St. Louis, but we kind of live out like St. Charles,
that's still
Cottleville.
My little hidden gem of a place that like I love so much. We've been going there for probably a year and a half, almost 2 years now. Thai Kitchen in O'Fallon.
Really?
It is like just like in a little strip, but sweetest, kindest, like
people are awesome. Best Thai food ever.
Love it.
Awesome.
Yeah, but like we're there probably at least once a week, and the kids love it and stuff now. I mean, that's kind of like our little like hidden gem of stuff. Yeah, like I love.
Well, not anymore now.
Right. No, like,
they're moving now.
Please save us a spot. But no, like, you know, we love all like the, you know, big places and stuff around here. I mean, Katie's Salt and Smoke, like Olive and Oak, like we love like all of those places. And then, just kind of our little like hidden gem stuff too is always really good.
Yeah. I love the Foundry too. Like when people come to town, just take them in there. It's such a cool spot. And with expat opening and stuff too, it's just getting cooler and cooler.
Not yet. We're excited.
No, we had an invite for last Friday. We didn't go, but
we're excited.
It looks nuts.
Yeah, it's cool.
I think that there's a spot in Cottleville that I'm trying, Bacaro or Nodo.
Yeah.
Nodo.
Oh, Nodo is awesome.
Yeah,
that's some of the
really
best pizza.
Yeah, there's a
It's
spot.
hard to get reservations at too. I just made some for like 2 weeks from now to take the family.
Yeah,
they invited us out. They're like, hey, do you guys want to come out? But they opened a spritz bar next door.
Yes.
So it's the same family.
The Bacaro one.
Yeah, Bacaro.
Yeah.
But it's like Aperol spritzes and like small dishes with like, you know, burrata.
You're gonna be right there in that area.
Know,
so that'll be
so
a new happening
so
spot.
we're trying that, and then I think there's so many great restaurants in St. Louis in general that it's like it's hard hard because there's only so many options. And
Yeah.
it's like for you guys, it's like when we do have a date night, we're
Yep.
going to go to the place that we know because we have
Yes.
babysitters lined up. We have
Yep.
everything lined up. Like
Yep.
we can't risk this tonight.
Yep.
Same with the Thai place. Like I go to Miley all the time in Brentwood.
Yeah,
That's good
And
too.
it's like I
good
get it.
too.
We get it once a week
Yep.
because it's like it hits every single time.
Yep.
And we just
time.
know it's comfort food.
Consistent, and yeah, no, it's so good. No, there's all sorts, and that's the cool thing I think for us is like the community of people. I mean, we met Jason Bachman like
Yeah.
a couple years ago and stuff, and he gave us his phone number at Summer Smash, and just like, hey, like if you
Yeah,
guys need
Jason's
help,
my guy.
like
He's a good
just
guy.
like let us know. We've seen him at Costco, and I mean, he's just like. St. Louis, I know everyone says it, it's just that big small town. And, growing up in small towns, I mean, it truly does feel like that.
Yeah.
I mean, people are so supportive, so helpful. Other businesses, like, like that. I mean, even just being on this, we're like, oh my gosh, like, little old us. But it's just a cool feeling to have that support in the community around us. So, yeah, we're excited.
That's great. Where can people follow you guys at? Where can they, where's the website so they can order?
So the website's berryboxsuperfood.com. And then you can also find us on Instagram at Berrybox Superfood. Facebook's at Berrybox Superfood.
TikTok's been popping off a
TikTok's
little
at
bit.
Berrybox Superfood. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I appreciate you guys for
You won't
taking
find
the
me on
time.
there, but yeah.
Yeah.
I appreciate you guys for taking the time and being vulnerable today and giving people an outlook of where you guys are going. I'm excited to play just a small part in what you guys are doing. So
No, it's
thank
awesome.
you.
No, wait,
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Appreciate you guys.
Today they rep St. Louis, yeah. They rep St. Louis. They rep St. Louis.